A train would be nothing without its tracks. But have you ever thought about how those tracks get to where they are in the first place? And what railroads do when they've ordered more rail than they need? Come along as we explore how the MBTA transports and recycles leftover rails to new places on the system. The MBTA commuter rail system is a large one. 394 miles of track make up every inch of the territory. These days, track is first delivered to a location by way of a welded rail train. The MBTA often runs a few of these trains per year, in the warmer months. For example, back in summer 2021, the MBTA ordered welded rail to be delivered and laid in Reading, Massachusetts. In late August, a welded rail train was delivered via Pan Am Railways. Later in September, another welded rail train was delivered via CSX in the Grand Junction line. The welded rail would be laid on the right-of-way and slowly installed over the span of a few years. Welded rail, as opposed to jointed rail, allows for a much smoother, quicker, and quieter ride. What welded rail is are multiple pieces of smaller rail, welded together to make one huge piece of rail, with no joints for a much longer time. At the time, the Haverhill line was one of the last on the MBTA's system to use jointed rail. Jointed rail is rail physically connected in short distances, creating a gap between each rail segment. This is responsible for the once legendary clickety-clack of railroad tracks that you would hear anywhere across the country. Not so anymore with the popularization of welded rail. Welded rail is ordered so that more than enough will be available, allowing for any possible mistakes to occur. Similar to buying food before a storm, you always want to get extra in case you're stuck in your house for a few days. But what happens to the leftovers? While you may give your food to a food pantry, the railroad gives their leftovers to a different place on the system that is in need of just a few more pieces of rail. And that is the operation we will be observing today. The date is December 19th, 2024, and I find myself at Ash Interlocking in Reading, Massachusetts. Unfortunately, I'm a little late to the party. Earlier today, this train, the North Side Work Extra, was loading 9 strings of leftover welded rail from the 2021 deliveries. I am catching them just as they are about to head back into Boston. Now, I'm not sure if these 9 pieces of rail are old pieces of jointed rail from the western route or leftover pieces of cut-up welded rail. For the rest of the video, I will refer to these as pieces of welded rail. However, to be clear, I am not 100% sure that this is the case. As you can see, the rail has already been loaded onto the flat car. This consist is a weird one. It's not every day you get to see the MBTA's PNLX leaser locomotive, freight cars, and a caboose in the middle of a consist. The Work Extra gets permission to shove their train into Reading Station after the passing of inbound train 210.
9619, Valley. Boston Valley, answering the 9619, over. Yes, once 210 goes west of us here at Ash Street, we'll be ready to come off the right and middle up into the station and follow them in. Roger that, sounds like a good plan. They're just coming up to WJ right now. Over. Valley, work extra 9619, over. Work extra 9619. You looking to go back up to the 4th iron? Over. Tell you when we got up to Ash Street, we're gonna go right back onto the B&A eastbound. Roger that, B&E eastbound. You still have Foreman Fernandez, Form D, M402, over. No, negative. I don't have no copy of that. Channel. Somebody stepped on you, right? So okay to go? I did, yep. Okay to go. Roger. Work extra Valley. Can we get to the 4th iron without going to his other service limits, or does he have everything tied up over there? Currently he has the 4th iron and east and west in his line 4 limits at this time, over. Alright, well, then we'll talk to him in road, so I'll have to sit down and get a copy of it. I mean, I'm sure on that. Right, exit 2 to the next crossing, Joe. Gates are down. Roger. Yeah. You know, I just read for testing the file. Number 1 back to Hutt and Winchester interlocking. Did you work here?
The work extra now changes ends at Reading Station. 9619 fits perfectly with the work extra consist. It just so happens that this leaser paint scheme is a similar shade of orange to the MBTA's work extra fleet. In a moment, you will hear 4 tones go over my scanner. That is the work extra engineer activating the crossing gate by way of his radio. This is done when trains are stopped next to an unactivated crossing. Oddly, there isn't much traffic on I-93 today. I wasn't expecting to beat them to Assembly Square. Now, the work extra puts away the consist on the Boston and Maine eastbound track beside the Boston Engine Terminal in Somerville. This track, along with the Boston and Maine westbound, are where the work extra stores equipment and consist temporarily as they wait to be used for upcoming projects. It would be just over 3 weeks until the work extra would move these rails to their new resting place. These 9 strings of welded rail are due to be dropped at Cleveland Street in Gloucester. Because this is single-track territory, in order to make this operation possible, Keolis had to alter the operation of Rockport trains 105 and 110. Instead of going all the way to Rockport, this turn would terminate at Gloucester, and passengers would be shuttled to and from Rockport by way of Cape Ann Transportation Authority. The work extra arrives in Gloucester around 9:30 a.m. Awaiting the train at Cleveland Street is a Keolis maintenance of way crew, armed with a front loader. The work extra would detach the rail car from the rest of the consist and get to work. The front loader has a special device attached to grip on and remove the rail off of the flat car. A front loader is advantageous for such jobs because of its ability to easily drive over railheads and on the rough surfaces of the right-of-way. Every time the front loader removes a rail, the work extra crawls forward, naturally pulling the rail off of the flat car. Now that all 9 rails have been pulled off, the work extra can reassemble the consist and get ready to return back to Boston. Leading the rail train into the city will be the C1 caboose. On moves like this, it is typical for the C1 to lead outbound, so seeing it lead in the inbound direction is pretty cool.
Coming into the station now, keep coming. Look for another
PNLX 9619 is restricted to 30 miles an hour on the MBTA system due to its freight specifications. Thus, this wasn't a very hard chase. At Manchester by the Sea, the work extra receives a clear signal at Manchester Draw interlocking. Notice how the sea light is lit up. That is because the C1 caboose, which lacks cab signals, is leading this move. To learn more about sea lights, keep an eye out for my upcoming video on Railroad Signals Explained.
Clear signal, Manchester Draw. Yeah, the sea light. That's the sea light, yep. Roger. Alright, now. Your boys are here again. You're talking, boys. I can't hear.
Lastly, we would chase them to Pride's Crossing, a historic station which no longer sees any service.
Alright, coming through again. Good for another 10 cars. Your boy's out here again. Say what's up to him.
And just like that, another piece of railroad infrastructure has been recycled. This happens in countless other ways on railroads across the country. Whether it be unused ties, platforms, or spikes, anything applies. The railroad is an industry that will always seek to maximize efficiency and sustainability. Why buy new rails when you have perfectly good ones sitting unused somewhere on the system? So until the next time we see something like this, I will see you all again soon, out there, on the rails.
Clear signal, we have to draw. We have the sea light. Have the sea light, yep. Roger. Alright, now